Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to the History Shelf. My name is Peg. I'm so happy you could join me today. If you love history, you love reading new history, you love university press books, which this gal does. I'm kind of doing a new series. It doesn't really have a name per se, but I like to sample the different history type of specializations that certain university presses they do, and I've been discovering some new history titles from a variety of new university presses that I haven't really engaged with before. So I thought what I would do is to just bring to you the wealth of scholarship, wide topic readings across a variety of different historical fronts from university presses. I think university presses. They're some of my favorite go-tos for history reading, for discovery, for learning. Of course, when I was in school, that was my primary go-to for a lot of my research. So today we are spotlighting Cornell University Press. I made a contact there and was really pleased to have the ability to kind of look through one of their recent catalogs and say, here are some titles I'd like to feature on the History Shelf. And I thought, why not get started with this stack of books from Cornell, which ranges widely. Like I said, we've got some antebellum American history. We've got American Revolutionary history. We've got studies in like fascism and dictators and surviving under Stalinism, rogue states. We've got so many awesome titles here that I can't wait to share with you. And also, I've dipped into a few of these, but yeah, there's just so many, and I can't wait to really, like I said, just explore everything in them. But I didn't want to wait. I wanted to show you what I got, because that's what we do here on BookTube. We love to show what we got, right? So join me for this little spotlight video on Cornell University Press. A couple of the imprints are they go under different names, like Three Hills, which is an imprint of Cornell University Press. But anyway, let's start with this one, because I was really excited to see this on the list. Can't wait to dive in. I've already read a couple of biographies on this man, but this is about his whole family. All right, so this is from Three Hills, an imprint of Cornell University Press, and this is the Sewards of New York, a biography of a leading American political family by Thomas P. Slaughter. Recently came out, probably, I think it came out earlier this summer. So, but let me dive into this one. I've read the most recent biography on Seward, which was, I think, by Walter Starr, and I really enjoyed that one. So, but I would like to just have a whole, like, a family biography as well. Anyway, I've always been intrigued by William Seward, and I definitely am going to be reading this one. All right, let me go ahead and give you the lowdown on this bad boy. The Sewards of New York shines a light on one of the most important and fascinating political families of the 19th century. Through recently discovered family correspondence, Thomas P. Slaughter unveils the inner lives of the Seward family, tracing their joys and sorrows as the nation grappled with rapid expansion and deepening divisions on its path to the Civil War. William Henry Seward, the family's most prominent member, was a state senator, governor, U.S. senator, and secretary of state. Henry, as his family knew him, was often absent from their Auburn, New York home in Albany or Washington, D.C., and so remained connected to the family through the long letters, numbering in the thousands, that they exchanged. These writings reveal Henry as a son, brother, husband, and father, as much as they show him as a politician and statesman. But it is his wife, Frances, who is the hub around which this family story revolves. Slaughter explores the extended Auburn family during a half-century of profound change in American homes, marriage, and child-rearing. With an eye for the provocative and revealing, Slaughter takes us behind the curtain of the early Victorian era's private sphere. He and the Sewards, in their own words, portray life as it was lived by the influential and powerful, but also by many who lived more private lives that are now lost to us. The Sewards of New York paints a rich portrait of an extraordinary family that played a key role in 19th century New York and national politics. I'm really happy that the jacket copy talks about Frances in particular. And I think she's going to be a central figure, obviously, in this account. I've always been really, I don't want to do any spoilers for anyone who, might be interested in reading about this family and not knowing the story of what happened. If you know, you know. But yeah, Frances to me has always been kind of a melancholy, kind of a tragic figure. I'll leave it at that. But I do want to, I'm hoping to learn more about her from this book. So if you are into Civil War history, biography of the major players, politicians, whatnot, I think you need to check out the Sewards of New York. Put that on your reading list. So I know I am. All right. And now we're going to go to the American Revolution. I've got a slim little volume here, also from Three Hills. This is Fire and Freedom, The American Revolution in New York. And it's edited by Thomas Wormuth, Devin Lander, Jennifer Lemack, and Robert Childs, with a foreword by Russell Shorthoe. As you can see, very slim volume. Looks like this might be just a collection of essays here. More than 250 years after the revolution began, Fire and Freedom invites readers to rediscover America's journey to independence. Showcasing New York's central role in the revolution, Fire and Freedom highlights the stories of people and events previously hidden from popular view, unveiling a new vision of this famous narrative. Many of the revolution's key moments can be traced to New York. City crowds rioted against colonial taxation, and George Washington spent 1/3 of the war in and around the soon-to-be Empire State. Beyond these well-known players and moments, however, lies a trove of new information on New York's hidden revolutionary stories. Cool. With a foreword by acclaimed historian Russell Shorthoe and 7 fascinating chapters on a range of subjects, we see that events off the battlefield, a strategic retreat, a destructive fire, and displays of independence were just as meaningful as the fighting itself. State power and politics redefined conceptions of loyalty and allegiance. The resistance and agency of indigenous and enslaved populations shaped New York's post-war era. These diverse stories are tied together by the defining war, but they stretch far beyond its confines and even further beyond our common understandings. By providing a more comprehensive look into New York's influence on the era, the contributors to this book expand and evolve the meaning and significance of the revolution. Exciting and insightful, Fire and Freedom is a must-read addition to the great revolutionary saga. So let's see. Minus the notes, the endnotes, the book is about 192 pages. Still, you can get through that pretty quick and kind of learn about what New York was doing during this time. I'm curious. And I do like collections of historical essays. Kind of reminds me of when I used to subscribe to scholastic journals, like Civil War, some of the more specialist Civil War academic journals, where you'd have to join a historical organization to be able to even access, subscribing to the journal. But I love reading specialist literature like this when it comes to history. All right, let's move on here. Now, I'm thinking I probably need to start getting my plans together for this, but with 9/11, the 25th anniversary, very, very dark and melancholy and sad anniversary. But this anniversary is coming up, and this is a new book talking about an aspect of that tragedy that I don't think a lot of us think about. And this is called Scattered Steel, The Afterlife of the World Trade Center by Samuel Holleran and Max Holleran. Slim little volume, also from Three Hills. And I'm thinking I might even try to, the publicist I've been talking to at Cornell mentioned that these gentlemen would be open to an interview. And I'm not sure where they're traveling right now, but this could be in the works. So hang on, stay tuned. How do we remember a searing event that left so little behind? Scattered Steel traces the extraordinary journey of the twisted remnants of the World Trade Center. When the towers fell on September 11th, 2001, nearly all that remained was pulverized concrete and contorted steel. Samuel and Max Holleran investigate how fragments of these skyscrapers became modern relics scattered across all 50 states and beyond, built into hundreds of local memorials and firehouses, parks, and plazas, providing new and creative ways to grieve and remember. Drawing on years of research and interview with artists, city officials, and first responders, the authors reveal a semi-improvised process that transformed industrial debris into sacred objects. They explore the aesthetics of rust and ruin, the rituals of transport and dedication, and the cultural tensions between grief, patriotism, and public art. From a quiet town square in Wyoming to a monumental glass book in Padua, Italy, these memorials tell a story not only of loss, but of how communities far from ground zero took a piece of the tragedy and made it their own. At once deeply human and sharply analytical, Scattered Steel asks urgent questions. What does it mean to sanctify matter? How do memorials shape collective memory in an age of global and highly visual trauma? And what happens when the symbols of tragedy become part of everyday landscapes? Those are fascinating questions. This book is about 140 pages or so. And this is the advanced proof. I'm not sure if I'll get the final book or not. And I wonder if the final one will have color photos. But I imagine that they might. Dented sphere. No, I'm going to be reading this for sure as part of my just personal remembrance of 9/11. It's the 25th is. I mean, it's just a number. I mean, every year it's. I think of 9/11, and it's just so awful to remember it, but remember it we must. So this will be on my reading list coming up in late August, early September. Scattered Steel. So check that out. All right. We're going to move into some other interesting stuff here. Ooh, okay. This is from Cornell University Press, just not an imprint. This is called Always Under Siege, Olga Friedenberg's Diary Theory and the Everyday Terror of Stalinism by Irina Paperno. Somewhat slim volume. All right. Always Under Siege presents a remarkable and harrowing account of life in dark times that describes and embodies strategies of physical and moral survival. Irina Paperno brings to light the autobiographical chronicle, her notes of Olga Friedenberg, who lived from 1890 to 1955, a pioneering Russian philologist and cultural theorist and cousin of Boris Pasternak, who endured Stalin's purges, the Leningrad blockade during World War II, and the suffocating repression that followed. Using concepts of scholarship to understand what was happening to her and around her, Friedenberg transformed daily ordeal into what Paperno calls a diary theory, not just a record of events, but a reflection on how power invades home, body, and mind. Interesting. Analyzing Friedenberg's personal writings, kept hidden for decades, Paperno shows how she used myth, metaphor, and ethnographic description to interpret the everyday terror of life under Stalin. Comparing Friedenberg's ideas, developed in isolation, with those of contemporaries like Hannah Arendt, who witnessed Hitler's rise, Paperno identifies in Friedenberg's notes a compelling theory of totalitarian oppression. Presenting a singular testament of resilience, despair, and stubborn creative intellect, Paperno's book shows what it means to live and to think in a state of siege. So I think that is some rich reading right now, or anytime really, trying to understand life under a totalitarian regime. Just trying to deal with the light on these books and on my face. There we go. Now we're focusing again. Yes, and Russian history, Soviet Union history, memoirs of people who lived under, just is always up my alley. It is one of my core concentrations as a history reader. So I have a vast library on those titles, those type of titles. So this is going to be a very original addition to it, because I haven't even heard of Olga Friedenberg, and I want to read this. I want to read her notes. So thank you, Cornell University Press, for publishing this. I can't wait to dive in. Always under siege. Okay, outstanding. Oh, kind of similar, along those lines. Another book from Cornell University Press is this book called Purges: How Dictators Fight to Survive, by Edward Goldring. I think that's a really good cover, actually. I think that's really good. That is, how many times have we seen that type of scene? And if you look at like Saddam Hussein with that video footage of him where they're escorting people out and everyone's like applauding for him, they're basically just trying not to be killed, being shot out back. So yeah, look at this. Purges: How Dictators Fight to Survive. Yeah, definitely a peg book. Purges delves into one of the key tactics that autocrats deploy to maintain power: the removal of individuals from within the regime. From Kim Jong-un's execution of his uncle to Recep Tayyip Erdogan's removal of over 100 Turkish generals, purges bear significant consequences for the survival and endurance of autocrats. Yet much remains unknown about why dictators use purges and whether they achieve their intended effects. Drawing on an original global data set on civilian and military elite purges and dictatorships, in addition to case studies spanning North and South Korea as well as Turkey, Edward Goldring examines the logic behind purges and their consequences. He shows that dictators purge to consolidate power, punish disloyalty, and scapegoat elites to alleviate popular threats. But even as purges help dictators consolidate power early in their tenure, purges actually weaken their position when they have been in power for a long time, prompting pushback. In the face of an increasing global shift toward authoritarian norms, purges offers critical insight into how autocrats maintain and sometimes lose power. Fascinating. That, like I said, this is peg reading right here. So, this is going to be great. I'm going to be so damn depressed after reading all of these books. but this is the type of, like I said, scholarship I love to read. And I think like I said, I have before, I minor in petty despots and not so petty despots and dictators. But I also, in a way, I'm fascinated by the manifestations of evil, especially evil within the political realm and in governing structures. So anyway, those two books fit the bill right there. Oh, but wait, there's maybe this book. I got a trifecta of books about. But also, let's talk about rogue states. Okay. Here's another book from Cornell that is called Rogue States: The Making of America's Global War on Terror. This is a naked hardcover by Matthew A. Frakes. And for those of you youngsters out there, if you're not sure who these people are or what this is, then we need to talk. You probably know these guys, but you probably don't know this guy, right? I'm guessing. People of a certain age. Or maybe you'll surprise me. I think I have an older audience anyway. So Rogue States. So what do we cover in Rogue States? Matthew A. Frakes reveals the connection between U.S. national security strategy at the end of the Cold War and the beginning of the War on Terror. Throughout a series of crises from 1981 to 1991, the administrations of Ronald Reagan and George H.W. Bush recognized that emerging threats to global security, such as terrorism, regional aggression, weapons of mass destruction, and narcotics trafficking, converged into a single growing phenomenon that they eventually called rogue states. In confronting Libya, Panama, and Iraq, Reagan and Bush created the strategies that drove U.S. national security after 9/11. Frakes argues that Reagan and Bush's improvised responses to crises of terrorism, aggression, and the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction, which culminated in the 1991 Gulf War, established a lasting enforcement role for the United States against rogue states in the post-Cold War world. The effort to redefine U.S. national security around this threat created a new framework to guide the country's approach to global security after the Cold War, one that ensured after 9/11 that the war on terror became a war on rogue states. So, okay, you know what? So now it's these three books that I think I might want to read very closely to one another. Let me kind of get them read. Maybe not back to back to back, but very closely, because they're kind of all on a theme, if you will. Yeah, but these were some of the titles that when I saw, Cornell had, I'm like, I would love to look at these. I would love to read these because they are it's the kind of stuff I really get into. Oh my God, look at that old cover of Newsweek. Holy shit. They don't make covers like that anymore. That was 1981. I won't tell you how old I was then. Pretty young. Oh, yeah. Got that. Oh, here's another one. This is from 1990. Ooh, Baghdad's Bully. Oh, yeah. This is all me right here. So many good books from Cornell. And now I've got dusts floating around. Ooh, okay. Oh my God, you guys, I didn't realize how many books I picked on a certain topic because that's what my interests are. But of course. All right. Well, we're still covering bad guys right now. So let me show you the next few. Then okay, next two. We still got some bad guys here. All right. This cover is very dark, and I'm not sure what the pattern is supposed to mean. Probably nothing, but it's a naked hardcover. But this black cover kind of really goes with the topic. So this book is called Uniformed Murderers. Oh, kiss on my face. Okay. Uniformed Murderers, Romanian Army and Gendarmerie as Tools of Genocide by Vladimir Solinari. Uniformed Murderers. And let me try to say that word again. Gendarmerie. Okay, Romanian Army and Gendarmerie as Tools of Genocide. Vladimir Solinari. All right. Like I said, and all these books have come out this year. All right. I read this to you. Uniformed Murderers investigates the causes, logistics, motivations, and legal awareness of the Romanian servicemen, both military and gendarmerie, who massacred or otherwise caused the death of more than 3,000 Jews, Roma, and others in 1941 and 1942. Vladimir Solinari addresses and revises the framework that Romanian decision makers largely followed in the footsteps of their German counterparts. Solinari describes how Romanian leaders never completely acceded to the project of total annihilation of European Jewry, and that although Romanian fascist dictator Ion Antonescu was viscerally anti-Semitic, he was determined to avoid making his country and his regime be seen as criminal in the eyes of the Western powers. Consequently, he preferred to avoid commanding his servicemen to kill, and when ordering them to do so, he tried to leave no paper trail. While some officers were reluctant to implicate themselves in criminal behavior, others demonstrated eagerness to kill perceived enemies of the Romanian nation. Uniform Murderers integrates these factors and assumptions to reveal how they led to the bewildering inconsistency of the Romanian record of mass murder, which reached its apex earlier than that of the Germans. Isn't that fascinating? I didn't know that. See, this is the stuff that university presses provide, and I just love my university presses. What can I say? Support you. Got a little shiny thing here, a little shiny. Clean that up. So I'm going to be, this is why I read history, guys. This is why I get all excited, because I'm constantly learning things that I didn't know before. And in this case, I love learning about other countries, especially just in the geopolitical realm. And as far as World War II goes, what roles they played. And obviously in World War II, you had Romania, or was that Bulgaria? Okay, I'm getting World War I and World War II mixed up, because I think Bulgaria sided with the Axis in World War II, World War I, and then Romania was in World War II. You know what? Someone will correct me in the comments, I'm sure. See, this is why I need to read this book. This is great. I wish I had more hours in the day. I wish I didn't need to sleep. And as it is now, I don't even sleep that much anymore. I used to sleep 7 to 8 hours. And now I'm lucky if I get 6. And even that is interrupted in the night by dogs jumping on the bed. This is all my fault. I know I could but my dogs are my babies, so that's what they do. Yeah, I just need to be reading 24/7. But you know what? I still have a life. I have a job. I have family, friends. I've got Martine, I've got the dogs, I've got things to do. But I have learned how to read faster. That is what makes all of these books possible, is that I have learned how to read faster and to read with intent. And sometimes I just know with certain books, I'm going to cover certain chapters, and might kind of dip in and out depending on the topic. Like there's some history titles that I just will not read from start to finish, because they're more reference work. I'm thinking of like the Big Black Book of Communism. That's something you don't want to read in one sitting. You can't read it in one sitting. I mean, it's well over 1,300 pages or more, and you'll want to kill yourself after you read it. You just have to kind of go in and say, okay, I want to look at this time period. I want to see what they say, what the scholarship says here about this time period, this place, this person in power, what were the statistics, what was the resistance looking like, that kind of stuff. So anyway, man, this is going to be dark, but I think that it's going to really fill in some gaps for me as far as Holocaust studies, and also, yeah, that really interesting topic of history from World War II, where it was like, when did people know what they knew about the Holocaust? When did they know it? When did they act on the knowledge to stop it? Also, which countries were less on board with Hitler's final solution? There's been some recent work I've read about Italy, and that Italy was actually not full on board with that. Like the whole thing with like the hating the Jews was not really an Italian thing. And in fact, a lot of Jews found refuge with the good Italian people, who harbored refugees and people trying to just get out of Europe. So there's just so much to study here. And then, hearing about this, and how, even this dictator's like, I don't want my country to be aligned with this, to be looked at as a criminal state. He may not have really cared about Jewish people, but what I'm saying is, he, even on an irrational kind of world leader stage, he's like, whoa, even I know that this is like kryptonite. What are we doing over here? Let's not do this. But let me read it, and we'll see how far Antonescu gets off the hook on this, but I don't think he will. Okay. Moving on. I know I went on a little personal tangent there. Okay, so this is a slim volume. I could get this read real quick, but again, another PEG book. It's about 125 pages, and this is called Reds, Revolutions, and Rebellions: How China, Cuba, and Vietnam Transformed Guerrilla Warfare by Benjamin R. Young. Reds, Revolutions, and Rebellions. Again, this is Cornell, man. You're putting out all the books I like. What's going on here? I love this. As you can see, a slim little volume. All right, so what are we covering in this little volume here? We've got Reds, Revolutions, and Rebellions investigates how insurgent strategies from 3 revolutionary states, Mao's China, Guevara's Cuba, and Ho Chi Minh's Vietnam, shaped the tactics of armed movements across the global South. The afterlife of 20th century communist guerrilla warfare still echoes in contemporary warfare as armed Islamist groups, often seen as violently opposed to leftist principles, adopt the same military methods and tactics that Chinese leader Mao Zedong once espoused. Investigating the strategic thought of communist revolutionary movements in China, Cuba, and Vietnam. Teddy. Sorry. Teddy's in her bed. Okay, now Teddy's watching me. Okay, let me get back to that. Investigating the strategic thought of communist revolutionary movements in China, Cuba, and Vietnam within the framework of the global Cold War and the theoretical tensions that existed within and around the Third World left, Benjamin R. Young exposes how these movements became the centers of revolutionary strategy and offered the most viable examples for decolonization. To examine the historical trajectory and genealogy of communist insurgency strategy from the Chinese and Cuban revolutions to the present day, Young draws on declassified intelligence reports, memoirs, and security studies scholarship to follow the migration of insurgent ideas and reveal how armed groups have studied and repurposed leftist military doctrine. That's fascinating. He traces the ways in which communist military theory traveled far beyond its original context, challenging the assumption that insurgency was always local or ideologically fixed, and showing how leftist revolutionary war theory became a global language of resistance. Reds, Revolutions, and Rebellions reframes our understanding of both insurgency and counterinsurgency and provides a reason why, long after their revolutions, China, Cuba, and Vietnam still shape how rebels fight and how empires respond. Damn. This is so good. And, you know, I really, again, like, I'm going to, like, really want to focus on, right now, I'm really intrigued by Cuba. Like, what's going on in Cuba? Like, I'm hearing just horror stories about just people starving there, like, things are bad. We've got our government mouthing off, saying they want to go in and take over Cuba and all this kind of stuff. So, you know, I might just see if I can dive in here. And I might read about Cuba first as an example of how I will kind of dip and dive in. But really, I'm intrigued by all 3 countries. I've always been intrigued by Chinese history, Vietnamese history, especially Vietnam War era, because, you know, I'm a military historian kind of first, you know, and I've always been fascinated by the Viet Cong, then you got the South Vietnamese, the NBA. I've just been fascinated. Now, Cuba to me is, I've always read Cuba in juxtaposition to American history, the Cuban Missile Crisis, stuff like that. I haven't really actually read a full-on like biography of like the Fidel Castro. I haven't read a full biography on the Cuban Revolution, but this is interesting to me. This might actually, I'm going to check out the bibliography actually in the notes to see what his sources are here. I could find some really awesome books on just the Cuban Revolution and how the Castro regime was set up. I mean, oh God, the bibliography is fantastic. Oh, more books that Peg wants to read. So Reds, Revolutions, and Rebellions. This is out now from Cornell. If this is up your alley, definitely go check it out. Ask your library to order this. I know because, you know, I'm also aware that university press books are not cheap, but if you are a serious student of reading history, even just self-teaching yourself, you know, I've always believed in people have the ability to just learn just from reading and engaging with a variety of different opinions about topics. So written from different positions, right? But university press books are typically, they have sales. University presses will have sales throughout the year. So identify the presses that you enjoy. Kind of, even send a note to them if you want to. Email them and say, look, I am a big fan of reading history. I want to teach myself. I can't really afford full price, but I'd like to support you. I'd like to support this press. Can you let me know when you're going to have like your big sales, your 40% off, your 50% off? I know Princeton Press, they have their big, I think, well, they have flash sales a lot. But even these other university presses, I mean, just Google. You can find press sales all the time. So, but you can always ask your library too. Just putting that out there as a little tip or trick here. Okay, another naked hardcover. Now we're going to change gears a little bit, and we're going to go to religion in ancient. Oh no, medieval. Is this medieval? No, I guess ancient. It's like kind of an overview, but this is going to be fantastic for my own Christian reading and just reading about church history and how Christianity took off, as it were. So this is a new book called The Triumph of Christianity Redescribed by Eric Rebillard. So you see a naked hardcover. Yeah, so this one really appealed to me. In The Triumph of Christianity Redescribed, Eric Rebillard argues that the appearance of Christian signs and practices in the Roman Empire has long been misunderstood. Rather than marking a rapid wave of conversions or the triumph of belief, the spread of Christian signs reflected a more complex and fluid religious landscape. Rebillard offers a striking new account of how Christianity took hold not through adherence to doctrine or formal membership in a church, but through a gradual diffusion of signs and practices. That is interesting. Drawing on cognitive science, anthropology, and theories of religious mobility, he shows how individuals across the ancient Mediterranean experimented with religious symbols, adopting some, abandoning others, and often blending them without concern for consistency. Rebillard maps out a world where a religious affiliation was provisional, situational, and rarely exclusive. Okay. The Triumph of Christianity Redescribed challenges the idea that Christianity's rise was a straightforward story of growth, mission, or hegemony. Okay, so he's just challenging everything I just said. I love it. I love it, though. By replacing a triumphalist narrative with one attuned to ambiguity, resilience, and the everyday realities of religious life in late antiquity, Rebillard offers scholars and general readers alike a richer, more accurate account of how Christianity spread and what that spread actually meant. All right, so let's see what kind of chapter titles we have here. Sounds really, really, really interesting. So we've got chapter 1, The Impasse of Christians' Numbers. I guess kind of talking about how many people were actually considered Christians at the time. Chapter 2, Mission and the Diffusion of Cults. Okay. Another chapter is From Conversion to Religious Mobility. And then chapter 5 looks really interesting. It looks like it's like focused on one area to give it maybe a snapshot of what these theories mean. Religion of everyday social exchange. Let me try that again. Religion of everyday social exchange in Phrygia. Phrygia is spelled Phrygia. And then the last chapter is Christ, Cults, and Religious Mobility again. So this religious mobility is a very interesting concept. Wow. Now they're saying it's definitely for a general reader alike. So just the first few things I've kind of looked at, I'm like, well, a general reader with a kind of a firm grasp, though, on how early Christianity spread. I think that would be helpful. But either way, I'm really looking forward to taking that one on. Here's something a little different. I said sure to this. They kind of contacted me about this one. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, it's American history. And it's about someone I've never heard of, although I have heard of Tammany Hall. I'm sure many of you have. So this is a new book, obviously, from Cornell, and this is called Plunkitt of Tammany Hall, the annotated edition, recorded by William L. Riordan, annotated and with an introduction by Kevin W. Hula and Douglas B. Harris. So it's a slim little volume here. I see it's like a reissue of something older. Okay. Oh, look at this. Ex-Senator George Washington Plunkitt on his rostrum. The New York County Courthouse boot black stand. Check out that picture. That is Mr. Plunkitt sitting in the boot. Oh, God. Right here. In the boot black chair. George Washington Plunkitt. I've never heard of him. So let's find out who this guy is and what this book is pertaining to. Plunkitt of Tammany Hall, first published in 1905. All right, there we go. Provides an extraordinary account of the political corruption and profiteering of George Washington Plunkitt, a longtime district leader in the New York Democratic Party's political machine in Manhattan. Reporter William L. Riordan immortalized Plunkitt's banter and bluster by reorganizing the raconteur's impromptu speeches, conversations, and interviews into discourses published first in New York newspapers and later in this book. Here, for the first time, Kevin W. Hula and Douglas B. Harris present a fully annotated edition of Riordan's work. An original introductory chapter and introductions for each of Plunkitt's discourses highlight the book's place in American political history and the machine era in which Plunkitt lived. Plunkitt describes Tammany's operations, how machine politicians profited, and his views on why political reformers were curses on the United States. This annotated edition makes the classic political tale accessible for a new generation of readers, including students of politics and scholars of the progressive era. All right, guys. I'm curious, does this resonate with any of you out there? Do anyone who comes across this video at any time, it could be a month from now, a year from now, have you heard of this George Washington Plunkitt? And, you know, I've heard of Tammany Hall. I know it as far as it like equates with corruption, but I haven't really read a history about Tammany Hall. So this might be a really good companion piece to, say, reading a general history about Tammany Hall, because these will kind of go into Plunkitt's his own like writings or his speeches and what he had to say about Tammany Hall. Lots of footnotes or endnotes at every footnotes. Endnotes are at the back. I know this. I've written so many papers. But yeah, let me know in the comments below if you've heard of Plunkitt, or if you know a lot about Tammany Hall, and if you recommend any general histories on that. Okay, final book from Cornell Press, but this one is from Northern Illinois University Press, which is an imprint of Cornell. All right. Now, this is a guy I have heard about, and I think I have a history or a biography on him somewhere, but this one is a letters, baby. I love letters. Okay, this is called Herzen's Letters, A Life in Opposition by Kathleen Parthay. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I hope so. Herzen's Letters. This is definitely a thicker book. A Life in Opposition. Get you a good close up there. All right. Herzen's Letters offers readers a biographical narrative based on translated and annotated correspondence written by and to Alexander Herzen, who lived from 1812 to 1870, one of the most consequential figures in the run-up to the Russian Revolution and an inspiration to dissidents fighting authoritarianism and imperialism ever since. Kathleen Parthay has selected the most significant epistolary material from over a dozen volumes, interweaving letters with commentary to provide context on the time of composition, which is so critical. Like, I am not a specialist where I can just read through letters without the author or the editor, giving me context of what's happening. You know, why was this written here? What was he talking about? So this is going to be a great kind of like a guided narrative, a guided tour, really. Parthay also provides excerpts from key Herzen writings mentioned in his letters that are not widely available in translation. That's another benefit to having this. Wow, okay. While some letters are presented whole, in most cases, Parthay selected excerpts that illuminate Herzen's ideas, opinions, and plans, as well as his stylistic gifts. Herzen enjoyed spirited debate, and Herzen's letters includes, oh, this is going to be good, includes the voices of his famous contemporaries, including Mikhail Bakunin, Ivan Turgenev, Lev Tolstoy, and others. In brief introductory essays to the 6 sections, Parthay sketches life events, publications, and settings. As Herzen moved from Moscow to the Urals, Petersburg, Novgorod, the European continent, and England before returning to the continent for his final years. Oh, fantastic. Ooh, guys, I'm telling you, this is my dream stack from Cornell. So thank you, Cornell University Press. I will be enjoying these. You don't even know. So let me know in the comments below, guys, if any of these have, just set you on fire. And how much you enjoy University Press titles if you're a serious history reader, amateur, but still a serious history reader. I'd like to hear from you below about how you feel about your University Press books. Do you tend to look for them when you're out shopping at secondhand stores or at the bookstore or or online? Do you like to look for University Press titles? I know I do. But this is a fantastic stack from Cornell. I'll be happy to keep my eyes peeled for new releases from them that are in my field of study. And I, of course, will share them with you. Also, let me know if you'd like to see more of these University Press kind of spotlight videos. I've got at least material for 3 more videos. I'm making contact with a lot of new university presses. They've been really excited to talk to me. I'm excited to talk to them. I'd like to start, maybe even doing some author interviews with some of these titles. So let me know if you'd like to see more of these videos, because that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do them anyway. But, I know you guys are my faithful viewers, and I really appreciate your guys' support. And but I do want to know if you find these type of just spotlighting on history titles from university presses, if they're of value to you. Okay, so having said that, guys, let me know in the comments below, and I look forward to hearing from you. So until next time, take care out there, and we'll see you soon. I'm back here at the History Shelf. Bye-bye.